UFC Fight Night. Perez Nicolau is this weekend, and this is the card that we get after UFC 300. Were we a little bit spoiled with 300? Yes. Did we deserve this shitty of an Apex card? No, but I've come adjusted to it. I actually find 301 to be a little bit better than it's getting hyped for. Now, I do agree that the pay-per-view has fighters that don't deserve to be on the pay-per-view. Get Anthony Smith off the pay-per-view. Vitor Petrino's not a pay-per-view level fighter yet. You look at some of the other fights, like I'm okay with Michel Pereira being on the pay-per-view actually, but against Ihor Peteria, I get it. It's a short notice replacement. And then you got Paul Craig versus Caio Borralho, two very boring style fighters. The pay-per-view isn't too great, but you have a good main event. I think that Urseg versus Pantoja is being slept on, and then you have a great co-main event, and Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. I think that one's going to be a sick fight. The prelims are stacked. There is maybe one boring fight on the prelims, and it's one of the lower level women's MMA fights. It's not Yasmin Lucindo versus Karolina Karakovic, though. I think that fight's actually going to be fun. Yasmin Lucindo absolutely brings it every time she fights, so I think that one's actually going to be pretty fun. I promise I'm not being a scumbag piece of shit like, I don't know, I'm in Massachusetts. People tend to think that way sometimes. But we're going to go right into the main event. I'm giving you my predictions here. Now, mind you, I'm going to need to double check what my prediction numbers here are, so just give me a moment, see if I've jotted it down. But regardless, we're getting we were supposed to get Kopp versus Nicolau, which I would have liked a lot better. Instead, we're getting Perez here. You know what? I can't find it right now, but it doesn't matter because I'll get them to you when I do the Instagram post. I know that I'm right at 61.8%. I want to say I have 99 correct fights and like 60 or 70 incorrect fights, so I think I'm doing pretty good, but at the end of the day, we're going to get better, and it's going to start now. So, without further ado, we got I keep saying Kopp because it was supposed to be him, Nicolau Perez. Starting it off, Mahashate versus Gabriel Benitez. I actually think this is a pretty fun fight, especially to start the card, so I have no idea why it's this far down, but regardless, Mahashate's 9-3, he's a minus 200 favorite. You got Gabriel Benitez plus 170, he's 23-12. Gabriel Benitez has fought good opponents, but he's lost a lot of the time. He's won 2 out of his last 7, meaning he's lost 5. He's been chinned a lot. There's a lot of knockout losses on that record, and I know he got subbed by Jim Miller, but he got rattled by him again as far as punches to the face went. He's 35 years old as well. Now, Mahashate has lost 2 in a row. One of those losses is to Vyacheslav Barshov. And I think Vyacheslav Barshov is a sick striker, one of the better in the division as far as pure striking goes. Unbelievable kickboxer. He did beat Steve Garcia. I'm going to say Ryan Garcia. No one beats based Ryan Garcia. But Mahashate's coming off 2 losses in a row. It's against better opponents. And I think he's going to come in here hungrier than ever. He's young. He's had a chance about over a year or almost a year off now to really work on his craft and get better and better. I think he has more finishability than Benitez. I'm going with Mahashate to win by round 1 KO in the late part of the first round. He does get tagged a little bit. I think he's going to get his leg kicked a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think he's going to come out of there like a bat out of hell and get a finish in the first round. Mahashate, round 1 KO. Ivana Petrovic versus Liang Na. I just don't know why this fight is even a thing. Regardless, I don't think either should be in the UFC, but regardless, I'm going Ivana Petrovic. I keep getting it auto-corrected to Ivan because apparently that's a Russian figure or something like that. She's 6-1. Yes, she lost her last fight. She's minus 500. I think she's actually a pretty decent prospect. She has some good regional wins, apparently. And her debut was against Luana Carolina, who was much harder than anyone Ling Na's fight. Ling Na is 19-7. She's 0-3 in the UFC, all gotten knocked out. She's fighting cans before she gets to the UFC, and even when she's in the UFC, she's not fighting the top-level competition, and she's losing. She's going to get smoked. I think she ends up getting taken down and ground and pound TKO'd here. I don't think it's going to be violent, injury-prone ground and pound. It's just going to be one of those things where she can't move out of the position, and the ref has no choice but to stop it because she's not even defending herself. So Petrovic, round 2, TKO via ground and pound from, like, the mount position. James Lyantop is going to get a round 1 knockout over Chris Padilla. I actually think James Lyantop's pretty good. Really like his boxing. I like his performance on the Contender Series. He's a pretty good prospect here. He's 14-2, fought some decent competition. And then you have Chris Padilla, who might be a little bit of weight drain here. I know he's taking this on short notice. He's coming out of a bad promotion in UNF. I just don't think that they're that good. He's 13-6. He's lost a bunch of times. He is tall. He's lanky. I think he has a chance to use his kicks. But at the end of the day, I think Lion Top is just going to close the distance and really work well with his boxing. And I think Lion Top has great precision and power. I think he's going to put Chris Padilla out after a sketchy weight cut that he's going to have this week. Lion Top via round 1 KO. Mind you, I don't know that there's too many underdogs I'm picking on this card. There are some very heavy favorites, and for good reason. Speaking of one of them, Ketlin Souza here. She's a minus 330 favorite. She's 13-4. She's actually fought some good competition. I think she's actually pretty good for the division. She's strong. She's physical. She has finishing ability. And she's fought tough competition. Yes, she lost to Karine Silva, and we'll talk about that later. I actually think Karine Silva is a very good fighter, and I think she has the chance to rocket up in that division and maybe become a future champion down the road. We'll see, but I think Ketlin Souza is levels above Marnik Man. I actually think Marnik Man is a terrible fighter. Not even worth sprinkling anything on the underdog here, but Marnik Man's kind of cute. So we'll end it there. 30-27 unanimous decision, Ketlin Souza. I don't think she's going to get the finish. I think she's going to control, work her kicks well. She's going to look like a really well-rounded fighter in this one. Fat heavyweights. There's always a sketchy split decision when there's fat heavyweights. I think Dontel Mays is going to win it, and I think it's going to end up having to be a clear 29-28 decision, but there's going to be one judge that doesn't know how to score the looping, missing, or blocked punches from Caio Machado, as it seems to always go. He is fat and unskilled, and he's a sloppy striker. I don't know why he's in the UFC. I mean, look at this dork. Look at that smile on his face. That doesn't look like a murderer's mentality to me. And then you look at Dontel Mays. Dude, he has power. And yes, he's fat. And not overly athletic, but his technique's kind of weird. And one of the things that I want to point out is while he is 10-6, he's fought better competition. Caio Machado has fought and lost to Mick Parkin. I thought it was pretty clear. I don't know why people are like, oh, it was a close fight. He was headbutting Parkin the entire fight. And Mick Parkin just didn't look like his best. Arlovsky has been the same fighter for so many years, and Dontel Mays beat him. Arlovsky fraud checks anyone that's not deserving of being in the heavyweight division. I think he would fraud check Machado, and Dontel Mays beat him. I'm going to go Dontel Mays to win this fight via sketchy split decision. I think there's going to be some good, powerful punches in the first round. Both guys are going to be gassed by middle of round 2, and it is going to be a sloppy, ugly clinch fest with minimal strikes going from the middle of round 2 on. Mikhail Figlock, I keep wanting to say Michael, but it's Mikhail Figlock versus Austin Hubbard. I think he's going to TK Austin Hubbard in round 2, getting into the mount position, laying down elbows, and Austin Hubbard just covering up, not being able to take anymore. Figlock's 8-1. He took a short night fight against Perez. I kind of think Perez is a little bit of a tricky out for some fighters, especially coming into their UFC debut, because he's long, he's lanky, he is a precise, decent striker. He just has the absolute most soy build in the UFC. But again, I'm not going to take that away from Figlock. He took it on short notice, went into France and did the fight too, which is Perez's home country. So I think that after taking, almost a year and a half off, he might be at over a year and a half at this point. I think he's rounded out his skills. I think he looks a lot better. And I think he's going to have a pretty good performance in this fight. One of the other things that I want to go with, and Austin Hubbard, right, he made it back into the UFC because he was on The Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter has terrible fighters now. Now, this upcoming season actually has some good prospects. But last season was one of the worst I've ever seen. Just terrible, terrible prospects. Just reject after reject. I think Austin Hubbard's kind of soy. I don't think he has any fast twitch muscle fiber, so I don't think he's knocking out Figlock. I don't think he's going to sub Figlock because he got subbed by Kurt Hollabaugh, who I get it, has jiu-jitsu. But I just don't think Austin Hubbard is UFC level. I think he's going to lose this fight and then sadly get cut after. The other thing I'm going to say is Figlock came from Cage Warriors. You're crazy if you think that Cage Warriors doesn't blow tough out of the water, especially these past 10 years. Victor Henry versus Ronnie Yaya. Ronnie Yaya has strictly BJJ. He's chinny. He's 39 years old. He's 28-11. He knows how to lose. I think he's going to get absolutely smoked in round 1 by Victor Henry. First couple minutes of the fight, I'd say first 3 minutes of the fight, Victor Henry is just going to pour on strikes, and Ronnie Yaya is going to cave, fall down. I think he's showing up for a paycheck before he retires. He's super chinny. Victor Henry is pretty technical. Now, he gets talked about like he's this, it's a shame he's out of the rankings, or it's a shame he doesn't get a shot at the rankings. Like, dude, he's not that good. Bantamweight's very talented. He's good for being outside of the rankings, but he doesn't deserve the rankings. I don't think he's good enough to break into the rankings. I don't think he beats any of the top 20 bantamweights. But Ronnie Yaya's not even top 50 bantamweight. So I think Victor Henry is up there. I think that he is pretty well-rounded. Ronnie Yaya could want to go to the ground in this fight, and he can try, but I just think Victor Henry also has a solid ground game, solid jiu-jitsu transitions. He's good, he's strong, he can wrestle, and I think he ends up keeping it on the feet. And after one failed clinch or takedown attempt from Ronnie Yaya, he's just going to crumble after getting hit by the next punch and get knocked out in round 1. Uros Medic is going to beat Tim Means by 30-27 decision. Could be 29-28. I think Tim Means is going to stick in this fight. I think he's going to have moments where he might tag Uros Medic. He might get a couple really good knees to the body. I think Tim Means is pretty decent, especially for a 40-year-old. But Uros Medic, I think, is a bad man. I like the fast twitch muscle ability out of him. He has good power. He has looked great since going up in weight. And are we going to harm him, or are we going to talk shit about him because he lost to Meidelbeck Orabai? Orabai just wet blanketed him because Uros Medic hit so hard. And Orabai's a very, very good prospect. I like Uros Medic a lot. I think he's going to look really good in this fight, land some awesome body kicks with the high guard from Tim Means. I think he's going to land great punches, specifically the two. His backhand, he's a southpaw. I think he's going to throw those right down the pipe as Tim Means starts to come down to cover the body. The leg kicks are going to be there. Tim Means might go for some clinch attempts, but I think Uros Medic is very physically strong. He's a big dude as well. I think he's going to be able to shrug that right off. He might get hit a couple of times, but he's going to look very good in this fight. And Uros Medic is going to win 30-27 decision and rocket up the rankings. I think he's a really talented prospect. Keep watching out for Uros Medic. We're on the main card. And might I say, this might be the best fight on the main card. Jonathan Pierce versus David Onama. Almost knocked over my little pen and paper here. David Onama has crazy power, crazy strength. Jonathan Pierce is bad at striking, but his wrestling and his takedowns and his transitions are so good that it has made him be able to get as far as he is. It does scare me. I am going to go underdog picking David Onama here, and I think he's just going to catch Jonathan Pierce in round 1. One of the issues with David Onama is that he wasn't motivated. He wasn't training as much in fighting. He wouldn't show up after certain fights. They were saying that about the Landwehr fight, and he almost beat Landwehr. I think Landwehr is better than Jonathan Pierce, even though Jonathan Pierce has a much different game. Now, Jonathan Pierce could get the takedowns and really look good in the transition games, but I do think in that first round, David Onama is going to be very explosive. He knows what Jonathan Pierce is going to want to do. He's going to try and defend those takedowns, and if he can defend the first one or two, I think he's going to catch Jonathan Pierce on the chin with a overhand right. He's going to start really jabbing him and then land those power shots that are going to finish the fight. He does have crazy power. I'm going David Onama by knockout in round 1. It's an underdog pick. I'm going with it. But I will say there is a world in which Jonathan Pierce 30-27's David Onama by getting excellent takedowns, chain wrestling, landing good ground and pound strike, and looking really good with control time on the ground. I do think Jonathan Pierce is pretty talented, but I just think Onama's going to catch him. And I don't like picking wrestlers anymore. So I'm not picking a guy just because he's going to sniff crotch. And granted, I'm not going to make fun of Jonathan Pierce for crotch sniffing. He knows where his strength is, and he'll try and go for a finish. But I just think David Onama's going to have him here. Round 1 KO, David Onama. Janota Diaz versus Austin Lane. Before this fight was announced, I had no idea who Janota Diaz was, so I had to go and look at some of his fights. Glory kickboxer. He's very skilled at kickboxing. He's a very, very good striker. There is a height difference here between him and Austin Lane, and that does scare me. But I just feel like Austin Lane doesn't like getting hit. He's tall, he's athletic, and I think his body kicks are really, really good as well. He has power. And he's a decent dog. He can try and shoot a takedown and hope that Janota Diaz isn't good enough at getting up. But I just think Janota Diaz is so much better at striking, and I think Austin Lane is more of a striker than he is a wrestler or anything else. And I think Janota Diaz is just going to pick him apart for the first round, landing good leg kicks. As Austin Lane starts to try and gain some confidence, comes into the pocket, gets tagged, and then he doesn't like getting hit. By round 2, I think he's done being in there after some shots land to the body, to the head, and he just crumbles. Yeah, if you're getting knocked out, if Justin Tafa is that much shorter than you and he's finding your chin, I don't like how a Glory kickboxer, a very talented Glory kickboxer, is going to look. I get Justin Tafa has crazy power, but it's not like he's crazy precise. It's not like he's crazy athletic. It's not like he's dangerous outside of round one. I'm going to go with Jonah Diaz by KO in round two after possibly breaking Austin Lane. Karine Silva versus Ariane Lipski. I think this is going to be a Karine Silva win, but I think it's going to be super, super close. Karine Silva is super talented. Super, super talented. Has great finishing ability. She's like on a 6-win streak, all by submissions. She's 17-4, fought great competition. Ariane Lipski has fought great competition as well. She's 17-8, I get it. But her resume is really good. She's a veteran. Haven't seen her really get subbed at all recently. I don't know that she's been submitted on her record, and I know that's Karine Silva's best chance of winning. Now, I do think Karine Silva is getting better in the striking, but we keep seeing this when these younger UFC prospects, and granted, they're the same age, but Ariane Lipski has been in the UFC for a couple of years more than Karine Silva has, and we just keep seeing when these tests come up, Ariane Lipski is the one that really gives these girls tough fights, and I just think we're going to see that Karine Silva is better than Ariane Lipski, but Ariane Lipski is going to make it close. It's going to be a close scorecard, and because judges have no idea how to score women's fights, that's going to be a 29-28 split when it should be just a 29-28 decision for Karine Silva. Ariane Lipski's a good dog here, but a plus 130. I don't know that I'm taking it. I think Karine Silva gets this one done by a 29-28 split decision. This is a decent women's MMA fight. I don't know that it's going to be overly entertaining, but they're two talented fighters, so I'm okay with it, especially being how bad this Apex card is. I think Karine Silva is going to get it done, but Ariane Lipski's a live dog. Ryan Spann is going to knock out, hands down, Bogdan Guskov in round one. I don't know why Bogdan Guskov's in a co-main, because he trains with Anthony Smith, and Anthony Smith blows everything he says out of the water, and people just take it because he's, oh, Anthony Smith. You know, he's been in the game for so long. He's lost 20 times, so he's right about everything. Brother. Bogdan Guskov's hands are down low. He even got tagged multiple times by Zach Pauga, and he likes to throw strikes just wildly. He got hyped up because he screamed at a dude on the ground after knocking him out, which it's not that disrespectful, but kind of a shitty move. Like, he got the knockout, and I get it. There's a lot of energy, so that's why I'm not giving him too much shit. But, like, dude, come on. He's laying down flat on the ground. But he did it against Zach Pauga, a guy from heavyweight moving down to light heavyweight, who tagged him multiple times. If Ryan Spann's tagged him like Zach Pauga tagged him, Bogdan's going out. And Ryan Spann doesn't throw these big looping punches, right? They're not slow to get to the target. He's not throwing shovel uppercuts. He throws straight 1-2, 1-2. And I think Bogdan Guskov's going to get tagged a couple of times, try and shoot a takedown. Spann's going to throw the guillotine in there, almost have it, but Guskov's going to not be fully choked in it. Spann's going to finally fight smart and let it go. Guskov's going to get up, and he's going to land 1-2 and flatline Bogdan Guskov in round one. Ryan Spann's getting a round one knockout. I get it. He has some of the worst fight IQ you'll ever see in the sport. And like I've been talking about Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor coming up. Ryan Spann makes these guys look brilliant. Ryan Spann looks super dumb in the octagon when he fights, but he has good power, and I think he gets it done in round one. I just don't think Bogdan Guskov's that good. I'm amazed that he's on the co-main of this card. I think he gets tagged. You can't keep your hands down that low at light heavyweight and start to try and take a jump in the rankings and not get knocked out. He's getting knocked out, and I think it's happening quickly. Ryan Superman Spann by round one KO. Another underdog. I think Alex Perez is going to get it done. It's going to be a sketchy split. And I think what's going to win this fight is activity. Mateusz Nicolau likes to move really laterally, move across the cage, backwards, forwards, backwards, side to side, jab you at range, throw a leg kick at range, get out of your range. Alex Perez, I think, can put a good price on, good pressure, and I think it's going to look good to the judges, and that's why he's going to edge this decision. I don't think that Alex Perez is actually the more talented fighter than Mateusz Nicolau. But what I will say is Mateusz Nicolau's fights, first of all, get really, really boring. He's always on the back foot, and if it's super close, you know, damage is equal, there's not too many takedowns, or there's not too much control time, you know, someone's shooting the takedowns, maybe not getting them, but shooting them. They're pushing someone against the fence. That looks better to the judges, and I think that's what's going to get Alex Perez the decision here. I think it's going to be a super close fight. I don't think either way you call it's going to be a robbery, but I think Alex Perez is going to get it via activity. I also understand that Alex Perez is on a 3-fight loss streak. He barely lost to Makayev. Makayev tried to sniff him for 3 rounds, and he ended up starting to break Makayev in that 3rd round, but it just was a 3-round fight, and I think Makayev would have broke after 3. can't remember who his other fights are, but like he's beaten like he beat like Formiga and those guys, and that's why he has the name that he does. But Mateusz Nicolau is also coming off a loss, and he was supposed to fight Manel Cap 2 times in a row. Both were canceled. Alex Perez is a different style fighter. I think that Alex Perez is going to get this one done. I don't think he's losing his 4th in a row, and I think it's going to be a good upset here. I'm going upset in the main event. I have had terrible predictions for the main event, but the rest of the fights, I've been nailing the women's fights. For some reason, I am like almost cleaning house on because apparently I know when to pick those underdogs. But at the end of the day, this card should be better, but you know what? Dana spoiled us with 300. He's off the hook unless Mayra Bueno Silva is on the main fucking card of International Fight Week. And if Piper's on it too, like, dude, this is International Fight Week. I get it's a Conor card and people are going to buy it regardless. But you can't do that, dude. You can't put Mayra Bueno Silva on the main card of an International Fight Week, especially after the performance that she had with Raquel Pennington. Dude, don't do this. And another thing, I'm going to make a video of all the scenarios where these hardcore wannabes are saying casuals don't know what they're talking about. This is a sick fight. You're talking like Israel Adesanya. You're not in a fucking anime film. You're not the superhero of any fucking movie, all right? Get your head out of your ass. Stop trying to prove to people that you know the fight game. People that know the fight game just know the fight game, and they don't need to be addressed or praised by the fans that they know it. You know it or you don't. Stop looking for people to tell you know it, because if you do, that means you don't. And I know I just threw a ton of words and worked in a circle here, but I'm sick of seeing all the Instagram comments, TikTok comments, YouTube comments, all this stuff, people saying this is actually a sick card. When it's Rose Namajunas versus fucking, I don't even remember who she just fought, versus Amanda Ribas, or it's Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot, and they're like, casuals don't know what they're talking about. This is a sick main event. You must have not stayed up to watch that dog shit fight. So I'm sick of it. If people keep trying to pretend like Mayra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson is a pay-per-view level fight on a McGregor card, screw. Absolutely screw. Piper doesn't even deserve to be on there except for Marc-Andre Barrial. Granted, I'm a little less upset with that one because I do think Piper's a very talented guy, and I think he can get a quick knockout. It'll look really good on the crowd. I'm not upset with that one. They're just outside the rankings. It's a higher level fight. But there were other fights that were put on there, and I'm going to make a whole video about it later. But let's just stop. Hardcore wannabes got to stop, because you calling other people casuals when you're hyping up a fight that we all know is going to be shit and that you will find out is shit when you start watching fights and not just commenting on Instagram, we'll be here to make sure to humble your ass, all right? Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's hope we get quarter 2 of UFC rolling with picks, because quarter 1 was all right. I'm looking to get better. I'm looking to try and get in that 65% prediction range. I think that's a really good spot to be, maybe even higher, eventually get to 70. I'm at like 61.8 right now. It's better than most predictors, but we'll get there. We'll get better. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe.